Today we're talking about the SIRUI Nightwalker lenses. I have the 16 and the 55 millimeter. They're all T1.2 and they're geared, they're in metal housing, they're a great buy for the price that they are offered at, and I highly recommend them. Now I have both of mine on my micro four thirds cameras, so I have micro four thirds mounts, and I gotta say, between the two, it gives me a great range. Right now we are working with the 16 millimeter. I have it hooked up to my DJI Focus Pro, so right now we're operating at T2.8. And let me get you some specs for these lenses. So these lenses are T1.2. That means they're super fast. They are great in low lights. They open way up. One of the things that I do find with these lenses is that the depth of field at 1.2 is very shallow. And so on the edges, it falls out of focus, whereas in the center, it retains its focus. So you have to be very prescriptive about where you're focusing. At far focal distances at infinity, I don't think it gets tack sharp, but that just might be a back focus issue that I need to address. I noticed this at night when I had it wide open, and the footage that I was filming at a gas station, just, you know, some things were in focus, but the things in the distance when I thought I was at infinity were not. These cover a super 35 millimeter format, which means on your full frame, they would vignette and not cover the whole sensor. But I'm using these on micro four thirds, and so they work great. They give a great shallow depth of field. The 16 millimeter is excellent for talking head purposes. The 55 millimeter is equivalent on a 35 millimeter to 110, and so it's really tight and really close, and so there's a good amount of separation between yourself and the background. Great for close-ups and headshots. So all of these have a minimal focal distance of 0.3 meters to 0.7 meters. The 16 millimeter version that I'm talking on right now is probably got a 6-inch or a 0.3 meter distance, whereas the 55 millimeter probably has the full 0.7 meter focal distance, minimum focal distance. All of the lenses have a filter thread of 67 millimeters. The focus throw is 270 degrees. It's a very far focus throw, and it makes it, if you're hand focusing, great if you're doing things in a very short distance of focal throw. But when you are wanting to rack focus from a near subject to a far subject, it gets very difficult because you're constantly trying to turn it by hand. Definitely with these lenses, I'd recommend a motorized focus system like the DJI Focus Pro. They are all about the same size. On their site, they say they're about 93 millimeters in length. And so going from, you know, lens to lens to lens, if you're swapping out, the gears are all at the same space. They're, you know, made for cinema productions, and so it's easy to swap in and out on different lenses. They all weigh about 587 grams. They're fairly light, but they're not so light that they feel cheap and plasticky. They have a full metal housing, so they're dense and chunky, just like I like my lenses, and they feel good to the hand. They do come in a variety of focal lengths from 16, 24, 35, 55, and 75. I feel at 16 with my micro four thirds, that's the equivalent of 32 millimeters, so your standard 35 range. And then the 55 millimeter is 110, which would give me a very shallow depth of field, a lot of compression in the image, and sort of something that I'm looking for, since I either use a speed booster on my micro four thirds cameras or use focal distances that are add a lot of compression or have a lot of compression to them. These do come in a variety of different mounts, from E, RF, X, micro four thirds, and L mounts. But again, you got to keep in mind that they are a super 35 millimeter sensor coverage. So if you do get an RF and you have a full frame RF camera like myself, they're not going to cover the whole sensor. I did some filming of some, not necessarily focus charts, but, you know, trying to get an idea of how the focus fall off happens on the lenses at different T-stops. So if you liked what you saw today, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Comment down below. Let me know if you've tried the SIRUI Nightwalker lenses. Tell me what your thoughts are. Granted, for the $300 some to $400 price range, these are not what you'd call like super high-end professional cinema lenses, but they are great for people on a budget, people getting started out.